Oh my gosh, we're here. Only like a few seconds, and hopefully we're not doing too much. If any of our guests have on your YouTube, can you please close out that channel so that one isn't echoing back? Our guests are us, let's be honest. I did have a community question up there that we will come back to. I'll flip into welcome to Leading Through Stories. This is our first episode with Mary and Kristy and Helen. And this week we're talking about impactful leadership. Thank you to everyone who has signed up to join us live. Hopefully you're here. We actually want you to hop in and leave a comment. So we're on YouTube right now. We're live. I can tell there's 6 people watching. Hopefully it's not just like my mom and Mary's husband. Definitely hop into the comments and just throw in your name, because a big part of this Leading Through Stories is engagement with our community. And we are going to be raffling off one of Mary's books today. The way we're going to choose a winner after the fact is you will have to have added something into the comments. And it won't be my book. That's all like sticky noted up and highlighted, but you'll get a brand new copy of Mary's book. So go ahead, Helen.
Oh, no, I was going to say, we believe everyone is a leader from where they stand and that we all have a story to tell.
And one of the reasons we wanted to make sure, a question that came up was that people were like, can you clarify what Leading Through Stories actually is? So that's what we're going to do right now. Mary, tell us a bit more.
So, thank you, Kristy, and nice to see you both online. I miss the personal connections, and thank you to everybody who's joining us. But back to that comment, by sharing our stories, we really want to create connections. We want to build relationships. We want to support each other through comfortable, and not only comfortable, but also some uncomfortable experiences.
Leading Through Stories is an authentic conversation about successes, learnings, and sometimes the things that we would rather forget.
And our hope is that you, our community, and we're calling you our community because we love you already, we're hoping that you're going to be actively involved and engaged in this process with us. We didn't want it just to be the 3 talking heads, so get into that chat line, throw something in there, just so that we know at least our community is alive and well. And we're looking forward to having these conversations with you.
So, who are we? I'm going to start with Mary. Mary Michalitis is a leadership development consultant and educator. She's passionate about life and supporting others in living well to lead well.
Thank you, Kristy. And it is my honor this afternoon to introduce Helen Rose. She's an author, a motivational speaker, and a grief recovery specialist. And I know in some of your questions, you want more information about that grief recovery work. Helen really found her gift when she learned to embrace her story about vulnerability and brokenness.
Thanks, Mary. And it's my honor to introduce Kristy Wolf. Kristy is a photographer, medical mama, and a wolf pack warrior. She helps others to narrate their experience through digital storytelling.
And I'm just going to pop in and say right now that we have people throwing in good mornings, and actually people are connecting with other people in the chat and introducing themselves and saying, hey, we've met at a conference before. So this is exactly what I'm hoping for out of this, that we're not just connecting with people for us and like the 3 of us connecting, but that there's other people that might build connections within our community. So that just got me nerdy excited. Anyways.
Thank you, Kristy. And, as we have said to each other, it's really important that every time that we're with you, we're going to be including a reflective question for your reflection. So today's reflective question is on that screen. You can see it. What does impactful leadership mean to you? As you're thinking about this, Kristy's going to share her perspective and Helen's going to share her perspective shortly. But as you think about that question, throw something into that chat about what does impactful leadership mean to you? And please know there are no wrong answers here today. Everything is correct. Everything is right. So, Kristy, what?
Yeah, for me, collaboration and authentic connection. I think the communication piece is really important. It's not just what you are saying, but it's also what you're doing. And I think that really stands out for me. When I think about authentic leadership and impactful leadership, I find the connection piece to be the easiest part. It's actually getting into those tough conversations that I'm still working on. Like, it came up just this week that's things that I need to continue to focus on. Helen, what about you?
Well, for me, so when I'm leading my team, so it is about recognizing that we all have individual strengths that we could bring. It's no longer, the old school kind of I'm the boss, you do as I say. We now know that doesn't really work. It might work for a while, but for me, it's the same for you. As long as you have a connection and you're able to have those hard conversations. One of the worst things human beings can't do is communicate without getting hurt and all of that. So if you're the leader, you have to be able to be the one that kind of holds it all together, and so everyone feels like they're heard. I think that it would be for me.
Thank you, ladies. And Alina, thank you. Taking a risk to make a difference, to do something different, even if you're the only one doing that, then knowing that there's value there. Thank you for sharing. Anything else you want to read there, Kristy? And then hoping people will follow. Yeah. You, as a leader, you want to turn around and kind of say, okay, am I alone on this, or are there people actually coming our way? Caroline, thank you. Leading through those relationships, shared leadership, nurturing relationship in self and others as well. Thank you for your comments. We have had lengthy conversations behind the scenes and looking at this podcast. I'm sweating just saying, and I never sweat because this is my first podcast. So thank you for being so patient. One of the things in looking at impactful leadership, cultural humility is a big one as well. Thank you for sharing that. In working with an elder a while back, one of the things that he shared out loud was that the longest distance between being a great leader is from heart to head. Sometimes our heart needs to take over, and yet our head needs to make some rational decisions. When we take a look at impactful leaders, they combine the heart and head to lead and to achieve goals by empowering and influencing those that they work with. Helen, you talked about this, knowing uniqueness in our individuals, but also knowing our own different uniquenesses. How are we unique? How are our teams unique? And together as a cohort of leaders and learners, we will make a difference. And when we take a look at impactful leadership, I've worked with, hundreds of people across the province, have gotten perspectives, I've done some reading. David Irvin, who many of you know, is somebody who's near and dear to many of us on the screen. And he talks about servant leadership, and he talks about the importance of the word leader. And you may be sitting out there saying, I don't have a position, I'm not a formal leader. I don't know what this means to me because I'm really not a leader. We are talking about leading from where we stand. And this is about making a difference from the position that we sit in. And I'd like to take 30 seconds, if that, not even, to highlight what David Irvin actually highlights in his book, The Authentic Leader. And he says very clearly that impactful leadership is not a position, and it's not a title, and it's not a personal accomplishment. Impactful leadership is about presence. It's a commitment and a capacity to encourage, support, and guide other people through the strength of who they are. And so when we take a look at that impactful leadership, and for those of us who do have positions, that is not, and titles, we are not taking anything away from that. But this work, when we talk about impactful leadership, is about being transparent and really being a role model, identifying specifically what works in our organizations. And as leaders, I want you to think about, are we brave enough to kind of say, here's what didn't work when I tried this. How am I, as a leader, admitting my failures, my oopses? So thinking about impactful leadership, one other element that, has come in through some of our comments and some of the conversations, with Kristy and Helen, is really looking at embracing and encouraging that trust in culture and psychological safety. Kristy, thank you.
You're welcome, because we are trying to stay on this 20-minute thing, and we've run through this show, but we weren't exactly sure of timing. We mentioned in our trailer that we are going to use a sticky note if we need somebody to kind of move along, or if they've just been talking forever. Today, Mary is supposed to talk forever. This is exactly in her wheelhouse. So as we've mentioned, Mary has co-authored this book. It's part of the Grow series. It's called Instructional Talk Throughs. And the first chapter is actually called Everyone as Learner. And on page 4, it jumps right into a number of questions that we wanted to touch on. Now, I don't have them in the chat already. We will send them out in our email after with the recording. We will include them in the Mighty Networks. And if you are registered to find out when the next session is, it'll come as a takeaway email. So I will have those things sent out to you. If you are looking for how to make sure you're getting the information that we are sending, I'm just going to put up our Instagram. This is the best way. This is the one thing that we're all doing to quickly get you there. And then we can guide you to Mighty Networks from there, which is kind of our community page. We can also get you on our email list so that you have that information. Okay, enough about that. Back to the book. The 5 questions. Where am I in my teaching practice? Where do I want to go? How will I get there? What evidence will I collect? And who will support me? Now, as you heard, these questions are definitely geared to educators, but Mary's going to jump into a little bit about how this applies to everybody.
Thank you, Kristy. It does apply to everybody. As you take a look and think about the word teaching practice, let's remove the word teaching practice. Here's another set of questions. Where am I in my leadership practice? Where might I want to go? How might I get there? What evidence might I collect as a leader? And who and what will support me in my leadership journey? So thinking about those questions that have been identified in the book really highlights that everyone is a leader and learner, and that feedback moves everybody's learning forward. Community question out there was, what was the best trait in a leader? You guys gave us some incredible feedback, and we all lead from where we stand. Kristy, what's the best trait that you think might be in your leadership kind of compartment today? And as you're listening to Kristy, you guys throw in, what is the best leadership trait that you're thinking about right now?
I jumped in with connection when we were talking about this, but then Mary said transparency when you were talking a bit earlier, and that word really stood out to me, the transparency piece. I know we can't do it about everything, but being as open and honest about as much as you can is something that's really important to me. What about you guys?
Yeah, for me, I think it's clear that it's not just one word, obviously, right? For me, it's trust. It's trusting in your team, and your team needs to trust in you. Consider others' perspective. For me, is to be open to see each other's uniqueness. We're not always going to agree, but it's okay to agree to disagree as the leader. But just having some really good conversations that we're all working towards the greater good of whatever it is we're working towards in our team, right? For leading, for as teachers, or what I do with my work, or Kristy, what you do with your work, right? Yeah, like Alina wrote, ability to relate and be relatable. I love that.
And this is making me think too, in your book, you get into the fact that at one point, the educators were realizing we need student involvement. We want their feedback too. So often we'll think of leaders as people in authority, but it doesn't have to be that. Leadership can come from anywhere. It can come from kids. And so that part of this book really spoke to me about just taking ownership from wherever you are is what makes people a leader.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that, Kristy. Empowering staff to step up, empowering students to step up, empowering our teams to step up, and other best leadership traits, again, depending on where we come from, listening more than we speak. Thanks, Caroline. At least sometimes God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And so best leadership traits, depending on where you stand and the work that you're doing, it'll vary. Other areas include demonstrating integrity, looking at making hard conversations. Sometimes a best leadership trait is about making that really difficult conversation, looking at motivating and inspiring, recognizing success, and also sharing vision, and not just your vision, but how do you co-construct vision with those that you work with.
I have to comment on the flashing screen right now. I couldn't just pop in and be like, oh, Mary's flashing again.
Hey, that was between you and I. You weren't supposed to share that with anybody.
So we know this is happening. We'll fix it. I don't know. Maybe we'll fix it. We don't know if we'll fix it. But I do think this went much better than the trailer.
Oh, I agree. Totally.
Totally. Yeah.
Just try it. We are at about 15 minutes, Helen.
Yep. Yeah. I sent you a wee note saying we're at 3 minutes out of our 15.
So, Mary, will you tell us about your Impactful Leadership series?
Sure. Here's the quick little infomercial. I am so blessed to work with 80 leaders commencing October the 5th, actually next month, very shortly. And it's about impactful leaderships. How do we as leaders have observations, conversations, and feedback at the forefront in a safe, non-judgmental, non-evaluative manner? We will be meeting monthly, and we're asking individuals to step up and step out to impact change through their roles in whatever positions they're standing in, whether it's a lead teacher, CEO of a company, director, assistant superintendent, anybody who is attending. I am so honored, and we have a couple of guest speakers. Dr. Phil McRae will be joining us. Therese de Champlain-Good, the assistant superintendent from Elk Island Catholic. We've got Principals Green Smirchuk and many of her staff and others as well. And we have a special guest who will be joining us, Don Kuchar, who's Professor Emeritus in Illinois State University. And so we are absolutely delighted to host this series that begins October 5th and will go for the entire year.
So as we said, we will put that information in the email for people if they're interested in learning more about that. But I have to tell you guys that this is how I met Mary. I went to her Live Well, Lead Well conference at the Banff Center a few years ago. And then I participated in one of your leadership series. And it was just such a good way to, like what we're trying to do now, just once a month, building connection, continuing conversations. I would highly recommend it. So if anybody has some PD money in education that they need to use, this might be a good place for it.
And Kristy, it's about building community. You said that earlier, not this threesome community, but the overarching, overall, on-screen, YouTube, schools, whatever community, because it is collective responsibility, this work that we call leading.
Yeah. So we are running out of time because we're holding ourselves to that 20 minutes. But thank you to all of the people that are here today, to people that are going to watch the recording. Your engagement matters. This is what is going to drive the conversations that we are having. So please do respond to the email that we're sending out. If you have more ideas, please send them our way. Continue to ask us questions because that will help to guide where we're going. We would love if you hit subscribe on here. We would appreciate if you sent on the information to a friend or shared it on Instagram because we would like to continue to build this community and make it a bit bigger. We're pretty Alberta based at this stage of the game, which I'm very happy with. I would like to keep it Alberta based.
Totally. And that's a for now, right? So our next live Leading Through Stories episode is Tell Your Story is on October 20th. And Kristy, you can speak to the link in. It's the same one that we used for today, or?
It'll actually be a different link. Each time will be a different link, but that comes through either Mighty Networks or on the email. If you go on either one of those, that you'll be able to do it. So the link to register to make sure you're getting emails is in the show notes.
And last but not least, we have a bit of a call to action, something called a Take Back, Bring Back that we'll be sending out to you. We'll also be sending out resources to you. The one that we're going to be sending in the next few minutes is called Listen Like a Leader, but we want you to let us know what resonated in today's session. What did you like? What might you recommend? And the other thoughts. And once again, a reminder, a raffle will take place, but you will have had to have made some comment in the chat. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Looking forward to our next session with you all.
19 minutes and 39 seconds, ladies.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So you still have time, you guys. Throw a comment in. Say like goodbye. That's all we need you to do. Just
I need to say a quick hello to Annette Stanwyck, who is my mentor. Annette taught me how to be a motivational speaker, and she is kind of my little guru I go to when I need help. So it was really nice to see Annette's comments here today.
Oh, that's so awesome. And
Yay.
I did notice that Dean made a comment. Dean is Mary's husband. When I
Yes.
talked about flashing, he said, husband is watching.
Oh my God.
All right. Bye,
Awesome.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.